Well, shalom, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our exclusive Jewish National Fund Israel baseball event featuring Ian Kinsler and Brad Ausmus. My name's Rich Lieb. I'm a proud JNF San Diego board member, and I am co-chairing this event along with my friends Fred Schenk and Rob Gantz. On behalf of all three of us, we're so excited to share with you inspiring stories from the field and incredible updates on JNF's work to support the growth of baseball as a mainstream sport in Israel. Before we get started, if you are tuning in from a computer, we recommend being on, quote, speaker view and not gallery view. You can find this setting at the top right of your Zoom screen. In tonight's program, you'll be hearing from our speakers taking part in a very special seventh inning stretch and participating in a question and answer session. As if this wasn't exciting enough, you'll also have an opportunity to get Team Israel baseball caps, Team Israel jerseys and baseball signed by Brad Ausmus. I'd like to recognize a few special guests out there in the crowd. First of all, Saul Lizerbaum, JNF's national president based right here in San Diego. Sharon Joy, JNF's national campaign director based in Los Angeles. Lou Rosenberg, executive director of JNF Los Angeles and the lead professional on JNF Baseball Task Force. Terry Davidson, counselor for public affairs at the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. And Danny Grossman, Jerusalem's post-Olympic correspondent. In addition, my very good friend Sherry Schenk, president of JNF's San Diego Board of Directors. Now, without any further delay, it's my privilege to introduce a man who has spread the joy of baseball across Israel. He's a true team player who has been volunteering to develop baseball in Israel for more than 15 years, managing 8 Israeli national teams and working as a coach and manager. He's an accomplished leader who has helped the Israel Association of Baseball grow from a small group of enthusiastic immigrants to a homegrown movement across the country, running both elite academies and little leagues. And he is one of baseball's biggest fans in the world who assembled the first ever Israeli team to compete in the main World Baseball Classic and will lead Team Israel to the Olympics in Tokyo in 2021. Please join me in welcoming the manager of the Jewish National Fund's Project Baseball, Peter Kurz.
Thank you very much, Rich. I appreciate that. 15 years ago was probably about 10 years ago because I've been involved with baseball in Israel for about 25 years. But it was a great introduction. I'm happy to be here with the JNF, with Project Baseball. Project Baseball has been supporting the Israel Association of Baseball for over 20 years now. And they're very great partners to our projects and to everything that we're doing. And I'm happy to be here. I've been living in Israel for over 30 years, originally from the other coast, from a small town called New York. And living right now just outside of Tel Aviv here in Israel. The Israel Association of Baseball, we have over 1,000 kids playing baseball today in Israel, kids and adults, from Misgav in the north to Beersheba in the south, from the ages of 6, 7 years old to about 50, 55 years old is our oldest player still in the Premier League. We also have an IAB Academy, baseball academy, where we turn out a lot of the better players can come there for extra help. We have little leagues all over the country. We have an adult league, as I mentioned. We also send national teams overseas. You can see here some pictures of the U18 team who last year won the European Championship. And as proud as I am of the Olympic team, which I'll tell you about later, I'm even prouder of the U18. These are all kids who grew up in Israel, who grew up in the program in Israel, grew up in the academy, were trained by our coaches in Israel, and have achieved something really good in the European level. Unfortunately, this summer they were supposed to play in the A pool for the European Championship, but that was postponed until next year. And I'm sure then we'll be very, very competitive there. We also build fields in Israel with the help of the JNF Project Baseball. Right now, we're in the middle of building our field in Beit Shemesh. This is a rendering of what the field will look like at the end of all the phases. Right now, we're doing phase 1, which is basically leveling the ground and building the field itself. We're also talking about a field in Renana. You can see the next slide is a field where they're putting all the drawings together in Renana, and we're going out with our first tender probably in the next couple of weeks. And that's also with the help of JNF Project Baseball. But the main reason we're here is not to talk about the IAB, but to talk to two gentlemen who have been huge help to us in the last 20 years in baseball, Brad Ausmus and Ian Kinsler, and will also help us in the future. So I'll try to provide some background and some context to what's going on with baseball internationally and with our national teams, with our adult national team, and the success that we've had. It all started actually in 2006, 2007 with a bagel guy from Boston. Larry Barris came to me with an idea in 2006 that he wanted to start professional baseball in Israel. I said to him, "You're crazy." And 7 months later, 120 players were on the fields in Israel, 6 teams, coaches such as Art Shamsky, Ken Holtzman, and Ron Blomberg. They each played a 40-game season. It was a fantastic summer. Unfortunately, they went bankrupt right after that summer. But everybody who knows a little bit about Israel baseball knows about the Israel Baseball League and the great success. And even today, 13 years later, next week, we're going to be celebrating the Israel Baseball League's bar mitzvah. Not that they've been around at all, but we're celebrating their bar mitzvah. Many of the people that are involved with baseball in Israel today were around then. People like Nate Fish was our national director for 3 years. Eric Holtz is our manager of the national team. And other people who are still involved in baseball are from 13 years ago. Fast forward to 2012 and the WBC qualifiers, the World Baseball Classic qualifiers. It was the first time Team Israel was invited to the qualifiers. MLB contacted us, asked us to be involved with the qualifiers. I had no idea what it was to build a team, what it was like. We knew a gentleman called Jerry Weinstein. He put together a meeting with the 3 guys that you see in that picture there, Brad Ausmus, Sean Green, and Gabe Kapler. I met with them in LA, told them all about the WBC, what the qualifiers were. It was the first time there were qualifiers. It was unclear a little bit if major leaguers would be allowed to play, only minor leaguers. But in the end, Brad Ausmus agreed to be the manager, and the other 2 guys, Sean and Gabe, were player coaches. Brad came to Israel, as you see him there, together with Shimon Peres, who was the president of Israel at the time. He came to Israel for a week. He was there with everybody. He was there giving clinics all over the country. And basically, the WBC, the World Baseball Classic, is unique because of the heritage rule. There's no other international tournament that has a heritage rule. Basically, if you can get citizenship for a country, you can play for that country. So Mike Piazza could play for Team Italy. Andrew Jones could play for Team Netherlands. And Sean Green and Gabe Kapler could play for Team Israel. And that's a very unique kind of thing. It's all based on the law of return in Israel, where any Jewish person can come and get citizenship in Israel. Unfortunately, we put together a good team, an excellent team, a very good team on paper. Unfortunately, we lost in the finals to Spain. It was a very difficult loss. It was Brad Ausmus's first managerial official experience as a manager, and he's owed us for that ever since. So whatever success he's had since then, I can credit for him being the manager of Team Israel at that time. But it definitely got Israel on the international map. Fast forward 4 years later to 2016, what you're seeing here now, we won the qualifiers, the WBC qualifiers in Brooklyn. We had players like Ike Davis, as you see in the picture. Jason Marquis was playing for the team, an ex-All-Star. We won the qualifiers in Brooklyn in 2016. In January of 2017, there was a trip to Israel that was commemorated in a documentary movie called Heading Home, which many of you, I hope, have seen. Sam Fuld, Ty Kelly, Jeremy Bleish joined the team and joined the trip, and they're commemorated in that movie. In 2017, in March of 2017, we went to Korea. We were the last team of 16 teams to be chosen for the WBC. ESPN called us the Jamaican bobsled team, not giving us any chance whatsoever of accomplishing anything in the tournament. It was also more difficult, very difficult, to get other Jewish major leaguers to join us, to join the big schlep over to Korea just to lose 3 games there. Well, we surprised the world by winning 3 games there. We won all 3 games in Korea. We won the 4th game in Japan against Cuba. And Team Israel was definitely on the map. We were a Cinderella team at the time. We lost later on. We came in the end. We came in 6th place out of 16 teams, which is very, very respectable. And I was in a situation then after the WBC tournament of, on the one hand, having an Israel national team made up of Israeli nationals who were competing in the European Championship B pool level. And on the other hand, a team of Jewish American ball players who were helping Team Israel, who proudly wore Israel across their chests, wanted to help to do something more with Israel. And what do I do with these two teams? The WBSC, which is the International Federation for Baseball, had just announced that baseball was coming back to the Olympics and would be in the Olympic Games in 2020 in Tokyo, and exactly what the path would be to qualify for the Olympic Games. So I put together a roadmap, very simple thing. In 2019, there were 4 tournaments that we had to win in a span of 2 months. And I put it all down on a piece of paper. And as you know, the paper, the paper absorbs everything, as they say in Hebrew. And I put down exactly what the map would be. I met with Eric Holtz, who was our manager. This is back in 2017. I laid out the whole plan for him. He said, "You're crazy, but I'm with you." And I went to some of the Jewish American ball players, and I said to them, "Listen, I want you guys to make Aliyah, to come be Israeli citizens, and this is what we can do. And who knows if it's going to happen or not, but this is the plan. Let's try to get together and go through it." So in 2018, I brought 10 guys to Israel, Jewish American ball players to Israel, and they made Aliyah. They got Israeli citizenship. And in 2019, we brought 4 more players. And in June of 2019, this past June, we went to Bulgaria, to Blavograd, Bulgaria, one of the hot spots of baseball in Europe, and played in the European Championship B pool. That was the first tournament. We played against teams such as Greece, Ireland, and they also were stacked with Greek American ball players and with Irish American ball players. Remember, unlike the WBC for the Olympics, you need to have citizenship and a passport in your hand. So we went to Bulgaria. We played that tournament. It was a very difficult tournament. The finals were against Russia. Russia had 6 Cubans on their team. I don't know how Cubans got Russian citizenship, but they did. And we defeated Russia in the finals. And we were champions of the B pool, that division, the Bulgarian division. Here you can see the trophy, which is actually just behind me. And from 3 weeks later, the guys went back to the States. Some of them went back to Israel. Some of the Israeli guys, the Americans, the Jewish American guys who are now Israeli citizens, joined our native Israeli citizens for that team. 3 weeks later, we had to go to Lithuania, another hotbed of baseball, and play a playoff against the Lithuanian team. We defeated the Lithuanian team in 2 games. And 6 weeks later, we had to go to Germany for the European Championship A pool. This was in September of 2019. For Team Israel to play in Germany was not easy. Obviously, there's a lot of weight behind that. My parents were Holocaust survivors. Some of the players on the team, they had grandparents who were Holocaust survivors. But we went there. We played very well. We had a very memorable game against Germany. The 3rd game of the tournament was against Germany in Germany. There was a large crowd there. There were about 2,000 people out there cheering for Germany, and we defeated Germany in the 10th inning. So it was a very close game. We won that game. We came in 4th place in the European Championship. The top 5 teams then went up to the Olympic qualifiers, the European African Olympic qualifiers. So the first 3 teams were the Netherlands, Italy, and Spain. Israel was number 4, and Czech Republic was number 5. 3 days later, we flew to Italy for the Olympic qualifiers. We knew we had a decent chance. We knew we could do it, but we weren't sure. The first game, we defeated Spain, who we had lost to in 2012. So it was a nice little revenge against them in 2019. And then the next game, we defeated Netherlands, who only a week before had been the European champion. We defeated them 8-1. And the 3rd game, we defeated Italy, who was a 2nd place team, 8-2 in Italy. And that was also a game that was attended by a lot of people. It was very exciting to watch. So after the first 3 games of the qualifiers, the Olympic qualifiers, we found ourselves at 3-0 against the 3 top teams. And one of the next 2 games, either against the Czech Republic or South Africa, we had to win to go to the Olympics. Naturally, the way things happen, we lost to the Czech Republic. So the final game against South Africa was crucial. We defeated South Africa, handily defeated South Africa. They were certainly the weakest team in the tournament. Shlomo Lipitz, the legendary Shlomo Lipitz, who's over 40 years old and was on 30 plus national teams throughout his career. Even Brad Ausmus put him in to get the final out in the first game of the WBC in 2012, was the closer, and got the final out in 2019. Here you can see the guys celebrating after the victory that made us Olympians. So the players implemented my plan to perfection. We're now Olympians. We've added a few more players for the Olympic Games in the meantime. Also, we have an extra year now to do that. Ryan Lavarnway, who was our MVP in 2017 in WBC. Jake Fishman is a AA pitcher. And we've also added a player who just recently retired from Major League Baseball after a brilliant 14-year career, 4 All-Star appearances. That's Ian Kinsler, who will be speaking later. So Team Israel's ready. Ian got to Israel just before the coronavirus came into effect, a few hours before. He landed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the quarantine went into effect. So he would have had to have been quarantined for 2 weeks. Luckily, that didn't happen. So he was there for 3 days. He got his Israeli citizenship. He did clinics for hundreds of kids. Was up until 2 hours before he had to leave for the flight going back. He was still with the kids doing clinics and teaching them and talking to them, and the kids were just soaking it all in. Why is all of this important to the Israel Association of Baseball? The main goal is to develop baseball in Israel. There's no doubt that the Olympics are big. Israel has 9 medals in the Olympic Games. This is the first time Israel has put a team sport in the Olympics since 1976 in Montreal. They had a soccer team. So for 44 years, Israel has not had a team sport in the Olympics. All the 9 medals are individual sports in judo, in windsurfing, etc. Israel's very strong in individual sports, and this is the first time that we're really going to be putting up a team sport where we have a good chance to win a medal. Our goal is to win a medal. Nobody remembers teams or players or individuals who went to the Olympics and didn't win medals. They do remember players and teams who won medals in the Olympics. And that's very important for us to develop baseball in Israel. The kids will have something to look up to in 2028 when baseball comes back to the Olympics. It's not going to be in 2024. It's going to be there in 2028 again. And we're really doing that to develop the game in Israel. So hopefully together with the Olympics and getting the medal, and together with developing the 2 fields in Israel, in Beit Shemesh and in Renana, the old adage, if you build it, they will come, is very 3,000 or 4,000 players in Israel playing the game on all these new fields developed together with the JNF. And we can move forward from there. And I can bring Ian and Brad to Israel, and they can coach and be with the kids as much as they want. So now without any further ado, let me introduce these 2 guys to you. That's who you came to hear. And I'll pass the ball over to Richard now.
Well, Peter, thank you. It's Fred who's going to take the ball.
Sorry.
But Peter, thank you so much for sharing this wonderful history of Team Israel. Good evening, everyone. I'm Fred Schenk, and I'm a proud JNF supporter, and with my wife, who is the JNF San Diego president. I'm honored to introduce our next speaker. Over the course of his 18-year Major League Baseball playing career, he played for the San Diego Padres, the Detroit Tigers, the Houston Astros, and the Los Angeles Dodgers. He was an All-Star in 1999, a 3-time Gold Glove Award winner in 2001, 2002, and in 2006, and won the 2007 Darrell Kyle Award for Integrity and Courage. He was also inducted into the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame in 2004. He also managed 2 baseball teams, the Detroit Tigers and the Los Angeles Angels. He also managed the Israel national baseball team in the qualification rounds to the 2013 World Baseball Classic from May of 2012 through their series in September of 2012. While drafted in the 47th round of the 1987 draft by the New York Yankees, he actually played in Major League Baseball longer than did any of the 1,150 players drafted ahead of him. While playing in the minors for the Yankees, he went on to manage to graduate with a bachelor's degree in government from Dartmouth College. Today, he lives part of the time in San Diego with his wife and children. Please join me in welcoming San Diego's Brad Ausmus.
Thank you, Fred. I appreciate it. I don't know if I can add a ton to what Peter said. He kind of said everything, but I will add a few things, just a few thoughts and a few memories. I can go back to my childhood, the Jewish side of my family. My mother was Jewish. She passed away. My mother was Jewish. My father was not. But it was my mom and my grandfather who instilled the love of baseball in me. I have vivid memories of driving in the car 2.5 hours from Connecticut up to Brookline, Massachusetts, where my grandparents lived, and we would stay in their apartment with them. And my mom would get tickets to the Red Sox game. My grandfather would drop me off with my mom in front of Fenway, and he'd go back and watch it on Channel 38. And my mom and I would go to the game, and we would vacation during the summer in Cape Cod, and we would constantly be watching. This is long before the internet, long before cable TV, constantly watching the Red Sox games on Channel 38, because it was one of the few cities that aired almost all the games. So, and I can even honestly say that without my mom, I wouldn't have been drafted, because she signed me up for an open tryout when I was 16 years old in Middletown, Connecticut. And because of that tryout, I ended up getting a lot of attention and eventually got drafted by the New York Yankees after my senior year in high school in 1987. So it was the Jewish side of my family that instilled the love of the game in me. And really, my mom, I got to give her all the credit, propelled me into professional baseball and then eventually Major League Baseball. So that's kind of my background. I know it's a familiar background that going back 50, 75 years, that a lot of Jewish families, they had that bond over baseball and bonded over whether it was in front of the radio or in front of the TV, watching their favorite team. And that's changed now. I think it's more TV and the internet, but I still remember all those things, and I certainly appreciate them. I'm going to fast forward now to some of the stuff Peter talked about, because he mentioned the 2012 qualifier, but even before that, 2011, Peter and Chaim Katz approached me about managing the 2012 Israeli team. And I was just fresh out of the game. I had just retired at the end of 2010, playing with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And so it was about a year later that they called me and asked me about managing the Israeli team for the WBC. And quite frankly, I was very reticent. My initial response was, I'm not so sure I want to do that. I don't know I want to commit the time. And then the picture you saw of Gabe Kapler, Sean Green, and myself was a meeting up in Orange County in Southern California. And it was that meeting that got me excited. Sean Green was especially excited about doing this. He wanted to play, and he wanted to be one of the hitting coaches. And it was Sean and Gabe that got me excited about it, and that's why I turned the corner and decided to get on board. And it was a great experience. We did not win the qualifier, as Peter mentioned, but a note on that. I'm still upset about the way that tournament was arranged. It was a double elimination qualifying tournament. So there was South Africa, France, Spain, and Israel. And if you lost 2 games, you were eliminated. Well, in that weekend series or 4-day series, we beat France, we beat South Africa, Spain split, they went 1-1. So we meet Spain in the championship game, and we lost in extra innings. But we're eliminated despite the fact we've only lost 1 game. I'm still bitter about it. I'm not happy, as you can tell. I didn't really appreciate the setup, but that's what it was. They moved on fair and square, and we had to go home. But I'm still not real happy about how it was set up, and you know, I have visions of Jock Peterson I believe it was the bottom of the ninth, with the winning run in scoring position, hits a line drive down the right field line. Off the bat, a for sure game-winning double, and the guy runs it down right by the foul line. I mean, crushed us. That crushed us. But it was a great experience. I fully appreciated the fact that Peter and Chaim and Sean and Gabe all pulled me in and got me excited about this. I had never been to Israel. Peter arranged for me to come to Israel prior to the tournament. Stayed in Tel Aviv, visited Jerusalem, traveled around, went to the Dead Sea, did a lot of great stuff that I never would have experienced. And I'm very appreciative of all of it. I'm just upset about that one tournament rule, double elimination. Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Good evening. My name is Rob Gans, and I'm a member of the JNF's San Diego board. I'm also national chair of Lawyers for Israel. I recently moved to San Diego from Albany, where I served as the president of JNF's capital region. I became involved and loved the work that JNF does because it is an organization which is truly doing much to develop and increase the quality of life of all the land and all the people of Israel. So I do want to talk to you for a moment about that. We are building communities in the Negev and Galilee. We are creating facilities and programs for those with special needs. We are preserving historical sites. We are protecting Israel's natural resources. And we are turning a water-starved nation into a water surplus nation. And of course, we're planting trees. But tonight is about baseball. We've already heard some incredible stories about the development of baseball in Israel from Peter and from Brad. But just as in every ball game, it's time for the seventh inning stretch. But don't go away, because you've yet to hear from Ian Kinsler, the MLB All-Star and latest addition to Team Israel. He has a pretty amazing story, which Peter kind of previewed, about his journey to Israel and team membership. But before we get to that, let's all forget for a moment that we're on Zoom and not at Petco Park. We'll be playing Take Me Out to the Ball Game. We invite you to sing along at home. We'll be panning around our Zoom room on our Jumbotron. So remember, to be in speaker view, and if you're on a computer and you see yourself, give a wave, a shout, or a cheer. Well, that was great. Thank you for your energy and your spirit. Now, as Peter told you, Project Baseball is focused on building state-of-the-art baseball and softball fields throughout Israel, while also supporting and teaching baseball and softball to Israeli youth through little leagues, summer camps, and clinics, giving Israeli children an opportunity to learn life lessons while building lasting friendships. Especially children who've made Aliyah get a taste of home and a way to bond with their new Israeli peers. These children have something familiar to look forward to, and a commonality that bridges the cultural gap moving to a new place. I also want to point out that JNF is helping to integrate Israeli Arabs and Bedouins into Israeli baseball culture. And as we all know, there are not a lot of touch points between Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews. And it's not an easy task to integrate Israeli Arabs and Bedouins into baseball. But the donated funds tonight can help support this mission and help get coaches for the teams in the fall of 2020. All the money that JNF raises tonight is split between our development of baseball in Israel and sending Team Israel to the Olympics. Without our support, the Israeli Sports Authority would not be able to financially support the baseball team as they head to Tokyo for the Olympics. Today, you have a unique opportunity to help send Team Israel to the Olympics while developing those fields and leagues. You know, I've seen the pictures. When an empty brush-filled lot is turned into a well-manicured baseball field with all the amenities, it has a dramatic effect, not just with respect to the field, but also with respect to positive effects on the community. And that's what JNF is all about, building communities that people can be proud of. So tonight, I ask that you consider making an investment in this valuable initiative. Now, you're all gonna now get a text message and an email inviting you to make a donation. And also, Monica Edelman, our director, will send a link on the Zoom chat, which you can access at the bottom of your screen. So donations in any and all amounts are always appreciated, but we have some very special goodies for donors who give $1,000 or more today. And I'm gonna pass it back to Fred to tell you more about those.
Well, thank you, Rob, and thank you all for supporting JNF's incredible work in Israel baseball. When you donate $1,000 or more, you'll receive Team Israel swag as a token of our appreciation. So let me show you how you can get your hands on these items when you donate to JNF right now. For donation of $1,000 to $2,019, you'll receive a Team Israel baseball cap and a Brad Ausmus signed baseball. For donation of $2,020 to $4,999, you'll receive a Team Israel jersey as well as a Brad Ausmus signed baseball. For a donation of $5,000 or more, you will receive a customized Team Israel jersey along with a Brad Ausmus signed baseball. And by the way, your gift then makes you a major donor with JNF. Use the link in your email or text messages to make your donation easily and securely. And if you'd like to make your donation by phone or by mail, get in touch with our San Diego director, Monica Edelman, and she will be happy to help facilitate each of your donations. Make your gifts now to get your Team Israel swag delivered to your home. And thank you all for your support. Thanks to your generous donations, we are building a stronger, more prosperous Israel together. Well, it is now my pleasure to introduce our second baseball player. He's a former All-Star second baseman who currently serves as an advisor to the front office for the San Diego Padres. He played in the Major League Baseball for 14 seasons for the Rangers, the Detroit Tigers, the LA Angels, the Boston Red Sox, and for our own San Diego Padres. He was a four-time All-Star, two-time Gold Glove winner, and a member of the 2018 World Series champions, the Boston Red Sox. In his incredible Major League career, he had 1,999 hits, 257 home runs, 909 RBI, and 243 stolen bases. He twice hit 30 home runs and stole 30 bases in the same season in 2009 and 2011, and is one of only 12 Major League players in Major League history to have multiple 30-30 club seasons. In 2008, he won the Rangers Jim Sundberg Community Achievement Award in recognition of his having devoted a great deal of his personal time to his community. In March of 2020, he became an Israeli citizen and joined Team Israel and is headed for the 2021 Olympics in Tokyo. Would you all please join me in welcoming Ian Kinsler?
So it looks like Ian's having some connectivity issues. He has been with us and he just dropped off. So we're waiting for him to come back on. What I'm going to suggest we do is while we wait for Ian, is that we take any questions that anyone might have out there for Brad and Peter. You can send in your questions via the chat, and Fred can take your chat questions. So if you go to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'll see a box that says chat. If you're on mobile, click participants, find Fred Shank's name. You can send in your questions. We are not able to unmute you if you're watching, so you must send in your questions via the chat. So while we're waiting for Ian to pop back on, let's just do a little bit of Q&A with Peter and Brad.
We'll entertain questions. How about, I'll start out with a question for Brad. Brad, you told us about that painful 10th inning in that game, but can you give us your impressions overall about participating as the manager of Team Israel? And we understand how the end of the story came out, but what was your overall experience and observations about the organization?
Actually, we were only down there probably a week and a half total, but it was an unbelievable experience. And I'll tell you why. Peter had organized for a bunch of native Israeli baseball players to come join us in concert with some of the American Jewish players. And so we really had this large group of intermixed Israelis and Americans with all Jewish heritage, and had almost like a short-lived spring training. But the most memorable part of it, by far, the most memorable part, other than the games, was the fun that all these guys had together. I still have great memories of there was two guys bickering about who was faster. So we had them do a sprint against each other with everyone cheering them on. We had dinners together. It was more than just baseball. It was about getting to know each other and having that common heritage. It was a blast. It was a blast, but it was more than just baseball. And quite frankly, I still stay in touch with people that were a part of that team. I still get emails. I still get texts. There was a real honest connection among the players, both Israeli and American.
Thank you so much, Brad. So Ian is back on. Ian, we had a wonderful introduction for you, so I'm going to go ahead and put you on. And if you wouldn't mind just sharing with us your recent Aliyah journey and any stories you have about joining Team Israel.
And Ian, I was the one that introduced you. If you want to hear it again, I'll tell it to you offline.
Thank you guys. I'm sorry about my Wi-Fi. It's cutting out on me. I don't know why. Yeah, I had a amazing story, and it all started a lot like Brad and his story. My father is the Jewish side of my family, and he was the side that really instilled baseball into me. So at the time that this opportunity, when I got the phone call from Peter and I had the opportunity and heard that the team had qualified for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, this was something that honestly I hadn't thought about. There was the WBC teams that had asked previously, and I ended up playing for the United States in 2017. And Brad had managed me in the past in Detroit, and he talked about it, and we talked about it a couple times, and he said that it was a great experience. So I had that in the back of my mind. But when I got the phone call from Peter, explaining the opportunity, it was a lot to process very quickly, trying to figure out how to get my passport, how to get to Israel, what that timing was going to look like. At the time I was just retired, maybe 2 months retired from baseball. So my mind had kind of left baseball a little bit. And then to have the opportunity to have baseball back in my life was super exciting. And then from that point, everything just kind of fell into place. I obviously had to go to Israel to become a citizen and get my passport. And it was me and my wife, Tess, who did that. And we got, the coronavirus started, and the world just went crazy, and this was just a bizarre time to be traveling the world, and our scheduled time got pushed up by, I think it was 3 weeks, Peter. If I'm not correct, you can say something, but I think it was 3 weeks. Our time got pushed up, and we basically made a decision to fly to Tel Aviv from Dallas, Texas, and 2 days from the conversation that I was having with Peter, that we needed to push this up and get in front of coronavirus when they were going to stop, allowing international travel. And as we are flying from Dallas, I think we landed in Newark first to have a layover. We're getting all kinds of news coming out of Israel saying that they're going to shut the country down, and anybody that is entering the country is going to have to go through a 2-week quarantine. And we're sitting in New York thinking, should we get on this plane? I mean, are we gonna end up going to Israel and be stuck there for 2-3 weeks and not be able to get back? We have 2 young kids, and me and my wife are just like, well, we're pretty much halfway there. This is what we need to do. And we went through it. That Peter picked us up at the airport. We got there, I want to say 4 or 5 hours before the Prime Minister got in front of the news cameras and said that anyone entering the country had to be self-quarantined for 2 weeks. So we barely beat it. And everything from that point on in Israel just kind of fell into place. It was a lot to take in, a lot to process in a short period of time. And, the things that I really take away from it, besides seeing the country and seeing the history and all the things that blow your mind when you're in Israel, whether it's Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, was really watching the kids play baseball, because that's where I connect with people. That's what I love to do. And just seeing the excitement that they have for the game, the energy that they have on the fields that they're playing on. Mind you, they're playing on fields that just aren't terrific, and they're out there enjoying the game of baseball. They're excited about it. They're excited about what Team Israel had done in the past 2 World Baseball Classics. So that was a lot of fun to see, a lot of fun to be a part of, and just from my end, watching Team Israel in those WBCs and watching the way that they played the game, similar to what Brad said as far as the togetherness, the togetherness and the energy that they brought to the field every day, I think grabbed the whole WBC audience, including the other teams. All of the other teams wanted to watch Israel play. They seem to be an underdog, but they seem to win every game. So it was a lot of fun to watch, and to be a part of that stage now, even bigger stage in the Olympics, is just a great opportunity to represent, part of me, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it. I mean, Peter's done an unbelievable job, and I'm excited to get moving forward. It's been a little disappointing that the Olympics was canceled and has been moved, but that's one more year of training and, getting to know the players and the team a little bit better, and getting ready for 2021. So I'm excited. I appreciate you guys having me on, and, hopefully I think we're going to move forward to some questions
Thank you so much, Ian. It is now time for questions and answers. So send your questions for Peter, Brad, and Ian via Zoom chat. So do it via Zoom chat to Fred Schenk, who will be fielding and asking your questions. He already did one, and he'll be continuing to do that. To use Zoom chat on your desktop computer, click the chat button at the bottom of your screen and send your question to Fred Schenk. So to use the Zoom chat on your phone or tablet, tap Participants at the bottom of your screen, find and tap on Fred Schenk's name and chat him your question. And so now I will send it off to Rob Gantz.
So I have a question for Ian, and I just want to know, Ian, if you can tell us what has been the impact of being Jewish and your Jewish heritage on your career in baseball. Have you felt isolated? There aren't a lot of Jews in baseball. What has been your Jewish experience in the game of baseball?
Not a lot of traumatic experiences, I can tell you that. Not a lot of isolation. I think besides the, occasional conversation with Kevin Youkilis in Boston, or, obviously the conversations that me and Brad have had. And, in Detroit, they had a Jewish Heritage Night, which they did every year. And there was no other team that I played for that did something like that. Outside of those types of events, really not much. When you go to Boston, you go to New York, there's questions, there's media, there's people that ask you about it. There's fans that want autographs that are screaming out that they're Jewish. And that's when everything kind of hits you and you realize, who you're representing when you're on the field. And, my dad grew up in New York, grew up on the East Coast, and that's part of me. And I know that environment, and it was always fun to go back East and to have those reporters, ask me questions about my childhood, my upbringing, maybe sometimes a little bit too invasive, but they wanted to know everything. They wanted to know what if I was raising my children, what religion I was raising my children, and those sorts of questions. But outside of that, not much. It was a tight knit group, and I think we all know who we were.
Thank you.
Interesting, because Ian hasn't experienced it yet, but the guys who play on the team, on Team Israel, and the guys who have played Major League or Minor League Baseball, they said it's two completely different experiences. When they play Major or Minor League Baseball as one Jewish player or two Jewish players in a team, that's one thing. To come to a team where everybody is Jewish and all the guys are Jewish, there's just that something, that extra something that keeps them together, that has them together. The heritage of being Jewish and having 24 guys on one team being Jewish is just an incredible experience. A lot of the guys played together in minor league ball in high school. They're from many of them are from Southern California, so they knew each other, they knew of each other. But then coming together on one team Israel, is an incredible experience for them. And Ian will feel that next year.
Looking forward to it.
So I have some questions. I'm going to start with Ian. Ian, having played for a number of teams around the country in various ballparks, how did Petco compare to some of the other ballparks in which you played?
It's one of the most beautiful places to play baseball, I can tell you that. The environment at the time, Friday, Saturday night, was tremendous for a player as far as the crowds. Sunday was excellent with honoring the service members. But during the week, it's just the Padres haven't been good enough yet to attract large crowds during the weeks. But when you look at the stadium, the setup, the environment, the weather, the amount of fans that are possible in that area, that to me could be one of the best places to play baseball and the game. And I think we're going to see it soon with the young talent they have. I really enjoyed my time there, and it's just a tremendous place to watch and play a baseball game.
Thank you. This is from one of our young fans tuning in, asking of Brad, do you believe you are a better player or coach?
I think I'm mediocre at both. I don't know if I could tell you whether I was better at one or the other. They're two completely different roles. I think as a player, you look at coaches and managers, and I don't think you really have a grasp of what's involved when you're in that role. Things seem a lot simpler when you're a player. When you're a player, you're concerned about yourself. If you're a catcher, you're concerned about yourself and the pitching staff. When you're a manager, you're concerned about 25 players, probably closer to 30, 35 players because the guys in the DL. You're concerned about the coaching staff. You're overseeing them, and you have to work with the front office. So what looks like a simple job, a relatively simple job as a player looking at a coach or a manager, when you sit in that chair, it's a little more complex than it seems.
All right. Well, thank you for that. This next question is going to be for both Ian and Brad, and I'm actually going to invite Gary Jacobs to speak up on this one too, because the question from the audience is, who are some of the best Jewish players in Major League Baseball and the minors? And Gary is the owner of the Storm minor league team. So if the two of you could answer that, and if Gary, if you have any insights on some of the,
we can unmute him.
we'd have to unmute you, Gary. But Ian and Brad, if you wouldn't mind responding to that question, who are some of the best Jewish players in MLB right now?
Kind of caught me off guard in this one.
Yeah.
I'm just reading the question. So.
I would have said Kins, but he's not playing anymore.
Yeah.
Gary's unmuted.
Okay.
I mean, you have Jock Peterson, and Ryan Braun has done a lot of great things in his career. He had a couple hiccups there, but those are two guys that kind of came to my mind pretty quickly.
You guys are forgetting Bregman.
Oh yeah.
I know them all.
On the Storm last year.
What's that, Gary?
I don't know if we had any Jewish players on the Storm last year. So.
Well, you need to get started working on that.
Yeah.
Somebody just sent me a message. Max Fried.
Oh yes.
Max Fried played in Israel in the Maccabiah games as a 15-year-old on a U18 team, and he was their best pitcher.
Right.
He was a Padres first-round pick, I believe.
That's right.
Where is he now?
Braves.
There's also Dean Kramer, whose parents are both Israeli. He grew up in the States, and he's on the 40-man roster for Baltimore, and hopefully he'll make it to the majors. And he was pitching for us as a teenager.
That's great. Brad, this is a question for you. There have been a lot of managers in Major League Baseball who have come from the position behind the plate, as did you. We're thinking of Bruce Bochy, who managed the Padres and the Giants to World Series victories, and you were a manager of two Major League teams. What is it about being a catcher, if anything, that is unique from the perspective of seeing the field, knowing what's the plays in front of you, and leading toward being a pretty decent manager?
I don't think you have to be a catcher, but there are some things that. Can you guys see me again? You got me?
Here we do. Yes.
Okay. I don't think you have to be a catcher, but there are some unique characteristics of catching, I think, that probably equates well with making decisions as a manager. I think, obviously the catchers have to work with the pitching staff, and pitching is a large part of a Major League Baseball season. I think a catcher is also in the unique position of understanding how difficult it is to play physically and mentally every single day, and the toll that it can take on you, especially from a batting perspective. But they still have a pretty good idea what the mindset of a pitcher is, because they're working so closely with them. Also, as a catcher, you're making decisions. You're having to plan ahead. You're having to make decisions before things happen, which is something managers do on a very regular basis. So, you certainly don't have to be a catcher to move on to, or you don't have to be a catcher to be a manager. I don't think it hurts, but there's plenty of successful managers that didn't catch.
Okay. Can you find that? And I think we have time for one last question. It's going to be for Ian. Ian, during the years that you played for various teams, who was the individual player that you most enjoyed playing up the middle with at second base, and who surprised you the most from either physical ability or pure knowledge of the game?
I've played with some great shortstops through my whole career. First it was Michael Young in Texas, and then it was Elvis Andrus in Texas, and then it was Jose Iglesias in Detroit, and Andrelton Simmons in Anaheim, and in Boston it was Bogarts, and then in San Diego it was Tatis. So, you know, we're looking at great shortstops. So I had an opportunity to play with some guys that could really play the position. I would say probably Elvis Andrus was my favorite to play with up the middle. I spent the most time with him, and he was as athletic as any of those guys that I played with. His arm was just as good as any of those guys I played with. And he had a mind for baseball, a very, very sharp mind for baseball. And now somebody that surprised me physically almost on a daily basis was Jose Iglesias. He was a magician with the glove. He could do things that I never saw anyone else do. You know, even watching guys like Ray Ordonez and Omar Vizquel growing up, you know, he's doing things that, you know, I really couldn't imagine those guys doing on a daily basis in batting practice. So I had an opportunity to play with a lot of great players up the middle, but Elvis was probably the one that I enjoyed playing with the most.
Well, thank you for that, Ian. I appreciate it. By the way, I want to thank Peter, Brad, and Ian for joining us this evening. And Peter, whatever time of day it is for you right now, I'm not sure. But we really appreciated your insights, your sharing stories, and personal observations of America's favorite pastime. I'm now going to pass it off to our JNF director in San Diego, Monica Edelman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fred. And I just want to echo, I also want to thank Peter, Brad, and Ian, and of course, Rob and Rich for making this program possible. And I'd also like to thank each and every one of you for choosing to spend your evening with Jewish National Fund. Many of you know us for the trees that we plant, and it's my sincere hope that you saw tonight that we go far beyond trees. We are so much more than that. We're recreation, arts, and peripheral communities in Israel. We're improving the quality of life for our modern day pioneers. We're water solutions to quench the thirst of a rapidly growing population. We're cutting edge research that's literally making the Negev bloom. We're support for artisans and businesses in the Galilee, making the north of Israel an international travel destination. We're state-of-the-art care for Israelis with special needs and disabilities. And we're the largest provider of Zionist education in the United States, empowering the next generation of Jewish leaders. We're all this and so much more. JNF is your voice in Israel. And I thank you for making your voice heard in Israel through your generosity today. We're asking you to make a donation, to consider supporting our work at $1,000 or more so that you can be our partner in fulfilling our shared vision, a vision for Israel that is one of prosperity, security, and peace. And I look forward to delivering all of our Team Israel swag and Brad Ausmus baseballs to all of your homes. So if you have any questions about making your donation, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to connect with you by email or phone. And I'd also like to mention that if you want to support Israeli small businesses that are still being impacted by COVID today, you can shop online at JNF's online mitzvah marketplace, where we're selling Israeli wine, jewelry, and so much more. And if you enjoyed this program and you want to check out other incredible Jewish National Fund virtual programs that are coming up, you can check out JNF On Demand for upcoming events and past recordings. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thanks again.
Thank you. A lot of fun.